The title of this podcast is Make Your Practice Strong so when life shows up, you can handle it. Over a couple of weeks ago, I did a podcast episode on low-hanging fruit, using the little things that happen in life as an opportunity to work on yourself. So when slightly bigger things show up, you can handle those too. And so some of the little things that I've really worked on for me was complaining about the weather. I no longer do that. Whereas before, for 30 years living in Arizona, I complained about it all the time. Other things, whether people show up when they say they are, or make commitments and they keep them or don't keep them. That's another thing that to me was low hanging fruit, especially when it came to things like um, I'll join you for for uh, for a dinner, and something happens and they need to change the plans and they're unable to make it. I let that stuff go. And every time when I didn't let it go, the fruit was just a little bit higher. And so I needed to work on that too. I used to become very, very bothered by people not showing up when we would set up the games for pickleball so that we would have enough people. But I worked on that so that no matter who showed up, we were going to have a good experience. And that happened just last night. We were playing, someone was unable to make it, and I made the most of it, whether I was playing with a group of three or, that is the more preferred numbers of a group of four for doubles. I was cool with that too. So I've just really learned to take advantage of using those experiences as opportunities to make my practice strong. So when something a little bit more challenging shows up, I can handle that. And that happened on a recent trip to Rochester, Minnesota, in which I had the great privilege of giving a talk at a conference. And on my way back, I was, finding myself expecting or hoping that I could get back in time to prepare for the next day, perhaps go meet some friends who were taking a pickleball lesson, and all I wanted to do was be there while they were doing their lesson, and I was going to pick up the balls so that their coach could have a ready supply of balls and they didn't have to have a break in their lesson to collect the balls. So I was looking forward to going to serve. Well, the flight was delayed initially by 2 hours, so I missed the connecting flight. And then what turned out me getting home a little bit before 4. I got home that evening a little bit after 11:30. So it ended up 11:30 p.m. So it ended up being a 14-hour day of travel, which normally would have been more like 6, with all the things that are involved in flying. But what I was grateful for was I wasn't bothered by any of it. From every step of it, being on the flight line in Rochester, Minnesota, for 45 minutes long, which caused the missed connection when we got to Minneapolis, accepted it. Being booked on a flight that was not going to leave until 9:25. I accepted that while also trying to see if I could get on a flight that was a little bit earlier that would get me home at 6 p.m. And the two guys who were in line with me initially were behind me in one line, but we moved to another line and they were in front of me. And so they got the last two standby seats for that flight. So I was the third person in line. So it was a 9 o'clock, 9:25 flight it was. And I was okay with that. But because I had my well-being practice, what I observed how kind and thoughtful the flight attendants were and the pilots were on the flight, and which was delayed, something completely out of their control, and how empathetic they were and compassionate they were to the passengers. That was incredible to me. And that's been present before, but I was 1.0 whenever a flight was delayed, so I missed any kind of kindness that they extended. Also, when I was trying to run from one gate to the next, trying to catch a connecting flight, which there was a slim chance, the person that I stopped to get information from in this very big Minneapolis airport, how kind and thoughtful they were in trying to direct me. Well, you could take the tram or you can run all the way to the gates. Uh, Running may be faster, but it may not be. So, but they were trying to be helpful, and I was grateful for that. And then as I got to the gate, missed the flight, the bathroom, the restroom was quite a bit of ways, except for the one that I was close to. And there was an airport employee who was cleaning the bathroom, and I really needed to relieve myself. And this airport employee noticed when they came in and out of cleaning the restroom and mopping the floor that I was still waiting. And so he picked up his pace so that I could go inside. And, he said, hey, mind the wet floor, just be really, really careful. I know, you need to use the restroom. And he was, sir, and thank you for your patience. And I was struck by his contribution to all of the travelers' experience in that airport. How would you like to have somebody who is part of your team doing that? And so I was just struck with gratitude for that. And everywhere I looked, I just found reasons to be present, to be peaceful. And I didn't make it about me. I think that was why I was able to be in that space, was because none of it was about me. Now, I could have spent the time being upset about the policy of the company, our company's policy that requires us to fly through Rochester, Minnesota. But I understand to fly out of there instead of driving a car, but they have good reasons for it. If we're able to frequent as employees the Rochester airport, it keeps it open and a viable business proposition for Rochester, for the small town, so our patients can still have access to more immediate care when they travel instead of having to drive that hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours flights from Minneapolis to Rochester. So it makes sense for that. And so a minor inconvenience for Keith 1.0 is completely worth it for our patients to win, to receive the world-class care that they deserve. So I'm grateful for that. So I just found reasons to be grateful. I didn't lament that I was only going to get 4 hours of sleep before I had to get up the next day and do a gratitude mindfulness walk with at another conference for people that were kicking off that event. I was grateful for that opportunity. So the gist of what I'm saying right now is that when you work on your practice and you make it the most important things, it pays off in such a way that you benefit no matter how life shows up. Instead of being bothered, you become a contribution. Instead of hurting, you help every step of the way. That's a better way to live through life than you're turned on all the time and rarely turned off. I mean, to have done this practice for 10 years, to have a delayed flight be the downfall of all the work that I put in, I'm not going to be able to do that. No, I do this work so I can handle those moments without being blind, blind to all the amazing things that are happening around me. And I just named three on a return flight. So I encourage you to make your practice strong so when life shows up, you can handle it. If you have an aging parent at home, that the likelihood of you needing to provide support from them is in your future, don't wait until that happens to start working on yourself. No, you start now working on yourself for that part of your journey. And then it can become a rewarding experience of serving others without resentment for your parents, maybe having a hand in the state of their reliance on you, or maybe not. But either way, you can approach it with gratitude, with acceptance, but you have to work on yourself now. Got to do those things now, not later. Later is too late. Do them now, and then you grow the strength, the fortitude, the capacity to deal with these things in a wellness centered way, in a healthy way.